One of the most ridiculous conspiracy theories I think I've seen come out of BLM or come out of the Antifa or the riots. BLM is peacefully protesting. They're peacefully lighting cops on fire. They're peacefully destroying buildings. They're peacefully protesting the brutality of cops by trying to beat the shit out of them at every opportunity. It is absurd. It really is ridiculous. But one of the things I've noticed about this is how BLM and these movements are trying to deflect the blame, not only onto cops, but onto other people. Like, we're not about police brutality. We're not, like, encouraging people to go out and loot and cause all these problems and destroy property and buildings and get into gang wars. No, that's not what we're about. We're not doing that. We're Black Lives Matter. We only care about the well-being of black people, to be safe from the police while they commit crimes. Like, it is ridiculous. And one of the things that really got to me specifically, most of all, I think, was the really bizarre claim that it was actually right-wingers and white supremacists that were actually causing all this mayhem and destruction. Like, oh, they're going out there disguising themselves as Antifa and Black Lives Matter and destroying buildings and property, like to try and make us look bad and to try to make racist America lash out against us. There are a couple of problems with this. One, if they're at the scene of the riot, wouldn't, the rioters deal with it? Like, they don't want people there to, that'll, take the attention away from them. You know what I mean? Like, someone would be wise to that. You know what I mean? It's you don't see any footage, you don't see any evidence, you just see people cite reliable sources like the mainstream media to justify that, this weird conspiracy theory. It was one of the strangest things, completely disgusting, right? Completely disgusting, completely unwarranted, clearly a desperate attempt to make the black rioters look good, or Black Lives Matter's rioters look good, to try and salvage their reputation, because most of America does not like these riots. Even locals, I imagine, aren't happy. I imagine anyone who's not actively participating in the riots is against them. There's no justifying this backlash. If you're not an e-celebrity, if you're not a cuck, if you're not someone who from some corporation who needs to defend these people, you are against this, and you should be. It's completely despicable what these people are doing to the people and things around them, and it needs to stop. I think it's calmed down a little bit over the past couple of days. I don't see anybody really talking about it. We're all talking about people are talking about COVID-19 right now, calling Fox News racist. It does seem to have calmed down a little bit. I think, for the most part, the George Floyd arc is over. Hey, remember the jogger? Remember the joggers? Ahmed Akbari, armed robbery, running around a construction site with a hammer, totally innocently. He didn't do nothing wrong. Neither does anyone else. No one else brings this up because the facts of the case indicate that those people were in the right to detain and then shoot him, in accordance with the law. They knew what they were doing, in spite of how the media tried to spin this. And that's definitely something about the situation that I think is going over a lot of people's heads, is that it's very possible that the officer didn't do anything wrong. One of the weird conspiracy theories I've heard is that Floyd had corona, and the officer was just okay, we don't want to take him to jail and have him infect other prisoners, so we kind of have to keep his face on the ground and hold them in this specific position. That's just a conspiracy theory I've heard. I'm not sure if that's true or not, but that's the thing with these cases. Like, the public doesn't always have the full picture, especially when the media is so intent on like slanting it a certain way. It's one of the reasons why you can't take these stories of like blacks being murdered by white people like all that seriously, because the narrative doesn't match up with reality. Like, what the FBI statistics, what do FBI statistics say? Like, what, 12% of the population, black people make up 12% of the population, commit 50% of the homicides, like commit 90% of the interracial violence against white people, like documented. It's interesting how there's a reason that they're kind of treated this way. You know what I mean? Like, there's a reason for it. Like, black people aren't really doing anything to hold themselves accountable to the career criminals in their community that are involved with this violence, this anarchy, gang culture, right? Like, kids are pressured into joining gangs so they don't get, and committing crimes so they don't get beat up at school. Like, that's the mindset these people are in. Like, their communities are just pure shit. And it has nothing to do with the white cops. Like, it has nothing to do with the police, nothing to do with like white people. It's their community. Like, they're not doing anything to combat it. Like, they have like, what, 70% single parent households. Like, that's ridiculous. Like they need to acknowledge that improvement begins within. You know what I mean? Like, they need to like improve themselves before they demand like society do anything for them, because I don't think they've really been treated that unfairly by people. Like, most people seem pretty convinced that like Floyd was murdered. I am fairly convinced of that as well. I mean, it might not be the case. Who knows, right? They might be able to justify it somehow, but whatever. He might have been murdered. You know, I mean, the cop has been charged. He's going to trial, right? Like, what more do you want? Like, really? It's a really pathetic situation. We need, again, I can't stress this enough, we need to find a way to prevent this from happening again, because I am straight up sick of these people abusing their right to protest. Like, they need to dial it back and just find a more peaceful resolution.